All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
And today's guest is Kris Gethin. Kris is one of the world's most recognised transformation experts, with over 150 million people using his programs to build muscle, burn fat, and take control of their health. Twice voted the world's #1 transformation expert, Kris has an unrivaled track record of helping people achieve life-changing results, no matter their starting point. Through Kris Gethin Coaching, he delivers customised workout and nutrition programs, cutting-edge biohacking techniques, and one-on-one guidance to ensure his clients reach their peak potential. Whether you're an athlete, a busy professional, or just getting started on your fitness journey, Kris provides the mindset, science, and strategies to help you break through plateaus and transform your body. If you're ready to level up, there's no one more committed to your success than Kris Gethin. And in this interview, we discuss his story, the small changes for big health improvements you can make right now, how you can get the most from your training and nutrition, his non-negotiables that help him reach new heights, and so much more. And now, let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute honour to have somebody that I've followed for so long. But for people who maybe don't recognise your badass self, how would you describe who you are?
Good question. How would I describe who I am? Somebody that releases a lot of dopamine. So, I'm always find it hard to relax, I'd say. So from the moment that I wake up, I have a little bit of panic in me because I've got so much to get done. So I have to force myself, really, really difficult to force myself to kind of take some time in the morning. I used what's called a brain tap this morning, which is like a guided meditation with light therapy. So I use that to start the day, but I have to really force myself to do that because I've got so much energy within me. The energy is good. However, it could be a little bit difficult to unwind and relax and be present because you're always worrying about the future or stressing about the past. So I guess I'm, kind of highly wired, but I'm somebody that's very grateful and thankful to be in a position which I am because, growing up in Wales, there was no such thing as social media. It was all publication. We couldn't really ask anybody anything based on your interests, other than pick up a magazine and, learn that way because there was definitely nobody certainly within my vicinity. But I guess, I haven't really changed too much, I don't think. If I have changed, I'm hoping it's for the better.
And so how did you find that transition from Wales to the US? We talked about it a bit before we started, but, you were talking about losing your identity when you got the injury at the motocross. You've gone over there, you're changing the trajectory of fitness by your work over there. But how did you find that initial change and the change in the fitness industry over the years?
Yeah, so, the transition was something that was selfishly helping me. It alleviated me of the pain mentally and physically that I was going through at the time. And it gave me another route. And I felt that I'd regained some type of purpose because I felt I'd lost purpose there for a while. And, having something to kind of hold on to that is very therapeutic and good for you at the same time is something that, will be with me for the rest of my life. This is my passion that I've found. And I'm going to continue pursuing it because of all the benefits that I've gained from it. The changes that I've seen over the years since getting into the industry is just, I guess, people's attention span people's want for something now. People see the success that they want to achieve, not knowing the sacrifices or willing to put in the sacrifice that is required. It seems to be a lot of people are students of learning these days as opposed to application. And it's the application that really matters. Is people out there a hell of a lot smarter than me, but they don't necessarily apply what needs to be adhered to on a daily basis to get to where they want to go. So, we have that culture and society of instant gratification now, and people want something yesterday. And if they don't, they give up, which I think is kind of bizarre. Instead of, I understand you need to have micro goals in order to set up for the macro goal. And, you have to make that sense of urgency, but you have to understand that these things take time. They really, really do, whether that be business, whether it be working on relationships, whether it be physical embodiment. You have to put in the time and effort and kind of live in the moment as opposed to thinking so much about the future. If you keep thinking about the future and you're not keeping up with it, you're just going to set yourself up for failure.
So then, do you think that's why you become such a good transformation specialist, that, you've lived the change and you know how to do it, but you also don't let people take the easy route out? When you coach somebody, you show them what they need to do, but you make them do the work.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm definitely harsher on my clients than I probably need to be, or that possibly could be. The reason why I am is because I consider their transformation as being a boot camp. And, if you're going to go into the army, Navy SEAL training or, SAS, you're going to go through the major hardship in training to set you up for the life that you're about to pursue in combat or whatever it may be. But that's going to be the hardest part, the SEAL training, the SAS training is going to be the most difficult. And I think that should be the same way when it comes to the transformation, because it makes the lifestyle so much easier. So for an example, if I'm to remove all of your fruit over the next 12 weeks, do I have to? Probably not, but I'm going to anyway. Because once you finish the 12-week transformation, 6 months, however long it is, when I say, okay, at the end of this, I'm going to allow you to have maybe some Greek yogurt, maybe some sugar-free syrup, and have some fruit, mixed berries, some banana, blah, blah, maybe some chopped nuts on there as well. All of a sudden, your palate, which hasn't been used to any sweet, considers that now its new dessert, as opposed to the cheesecake or the flapjack or whatever it was previously. So that's one of the reasons why I adhere to such a strict approach, because I'm looking past the 3 months, 6 months, or whatever it is, to ensure that it's a lifestyle. Like for me, I absolutely love sushi. Now, is that really bad? No. But I'll eliminate that when I go on a diet, because I know once I get off the diet and I allow myself to have that sushi, that's like my cheat meal, as weird as it may sound, and it kind of works.
Yeah.
And I think it is essential to actually go through these transformations yourself, or whatever it is that you're trying to teach, that you are your own shop window front, that you've been there so you can better relate to the struggles and the transitions. And, it's kind of you're using yourself as your own observational study before passing it on to your clients.
I like that, because a lot of times you see these, here's your 12-week plan and have a cheat meal every, couple of weeks, and you're thinking, you're just going to eat yourself out of any gains you've made.
Yeah, that's true. Some people, for some, they justify it through upregulating their metabolism, speeding up their metabolism, stuff like that. But you can do that with a high carb day that's just made of clean foods. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything that's pro-inflammatory or fast food or covered in refined vegetable oils,
Which is pretty much a lot of my diet at the minute. When I used to train jiu-jitsu, I'd be super clean, and lately I make excuse, and I notice the pounds come on. And when you're young, you can burn it off easy enough if you just go to the gym. As you get older, we tend to need a lot more work. But how does an older athlete like myself, who's wanting to go back, start training jiu-jitsu and lifting weights and survive going up steps, how do we start testing ourselves? I know, because you do amazing work on lowering your physical age. How do we work on like biohacking ourselves, but knowing our starting point, knowing the areas we need to work on to, what gets measured gets managed? How do we know where the
Yeah.
problems begin?
Everyone's going to be individualized, based on what they need to work on. The one mistake that I see with people that are older is that they generally try to do too much too soon because that's what their younger self did. So they think, well, I did this, I did that, I did all eight of these things every single day. So I'm going to go back to that. Well, that usually leads to a sense of overwhelm because now, as you're older, you've probably got more responsibilities. Maybe you've got a family, you've got, taking kids to sports, whatever it may be. So it isn't always there and applicable in the beginning until you've actually got down a routine where you're managing your time a little bit more efficiently. Maybe your workouts are a little bit more efficient. Your food prep is more efficient, or now you can utilize a food prep company because now they're around everywhere. So I think it comes down to your time management more than anything, starting with one application and then the following week, the second and the third and the fourth. And again, it just comes down to the patience to do that because a lot of us want those results right now. Well, that usually does lead to a sense of overwhelm, why you get so many people join the gym in January with the best intentions, but that overwhelm overcomes them by February, and then they don't go back to the gym. And when it comes to, like you said, me trying to reverse my biological age. So I just turned 50 recently, but my biological age is 26. And a lot of that, yes, I do apply certain biohacks that do cost money. I'm wearing my blue light blocking glasses now because I've got bright lights in front of me with flicker. I don't want to raise my cortisol too much because I'm about to go and work out, which is going to raise my cortisol anyway. But there's a lot of things such as, making sure that I go to bed early and I focus on good quality sleep. I'm moving every single day. I'm getting sunlight. If I'm not getting sunlight because it's the winter months or I'm back in Wales or whatever, then I'm going to expose myself to artificial light, from the red frequency of red light panels to get the nourishing frequency that you would normally get from the sun. I'm going to take my shoes and socks off and ground myself every day because I know that we are being penetrated with a lot of non-native EMFs, satellite signals, Wi-Fi, X-rays, all that sort of stuff that penetrate into us. However, if I earth myself every day, it can go through me. And I've tested this with an EMF reader. So it actually works. So there's a lot of these applications that we can do that are free, that our ancestors may have applied, that we can do now to help with our health. And then we start looking at the food. What is in the food? Is it cooked in vegetable oil? Is it organic? Is it antibiotic free? Is it free of pesticides, herbicides? We can go down that rabbit hole then. But I suggest starting with the free stuff.
Because a lot of people just now will be sitting there going, I'm fit enough, I go to the gym. But, they might be physically fit for strength, but no cardio. They might be able to have no mobility. Like I used to power lift. I could barely get my legs over my head when I started jiu-jitsu because I was just so stiff and out of shape. And I used to be able to pull deadlifts for Scotland, no bother at all. And I could barely go up a flight of stairs. So there was that mismatch. And I know that you've got a great podcast where you really go deep into a lot of areas. And one of your episodes was on hybrid athleticism. Do you think that's where guys are going wrong? We focus disco muscle rather than athleticism?
Disco muscle, I like that. Yeah. Definitely. I think a lot of us go wrong there because we look at the physique and think, okay, that must be healthy, even though I'm a static ornament and only working out in the gym, and that is that. Because, a lot of people do think that you're going to quote unquote lose your gains if you do any cardio, which is bullshit. You can actually get better gains in doing your cardio because now you're transporting oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to localized muscles that you've just broken down in a gym to enhance your recovery. So, I'm talking to you right now on a treadmill desk. I want to make sure I get my 20,000 steps in today, but I'll still do my cardio as well. After my workout later, I will do 20 minutes of cardio. I woke up this morning, did 20 minutes of cardio, but I'm moving all the time as well. And the most important muscle, obviously, isn't our delts or our pecs or our abs, it's our heart. Without our heart, we have no pecs, we have no abs. However, a lot of people will prioritize these external aesthetic muscles as opposed to our internal functional muscles, which we need to prioritize. Hence why I have every single one of my clients, whether they are on a fat loss diet, whether they're on a performance program, a muscle building plan, a biological age plan, they all have to do cardio every single day, because that's very important, to the synovial fluid of the joints, the blood flow to the brain. BDNF, brain-derived nootropic factors. There's a lot that can be applied from movement, and not enough of us do it. So, it's I know a lot of people find it boring, but, don't always do what you feel like doing. Like a lot of obese people out there are doing things that they don't feel like doing, to get in shape. Do you think a lot of people that are overweight want to get up in the morning when it's dark and lace up and go for a walk? Probably not. But you don't go by your feelings, or a lot of us would be in bars, chasing women.
Yeah, I sucked at that as much as I did at powerlifting at times. So how, because every time I listen to your podcast, there's always new stuff I want to read about. I'm learning about stuff, and it's so deep and interesting. But how complicated do we need to start building our longevity? Do we just need a workout that has push-pull, plyometrics, a bit of cardio, or do you need to take a wee bit deeper than that as you start getting older and trying? Because I'm 41 now, and I know that I can't train like I did when I was 20-odd. What do I need to focus on as I start becoming an older athlete, an older man looking to keep healthy for future generations?
It comes down to your ability to recover. I don't train any different now at 50 as I did in my 20s. It's the same thing, but I know my ability to recover is very high. I sleep, I go to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening. I make sure that I unwind. I have my nighttime routine. I'm doing everything that I can to ensure that inflammatory markers are at their lowest possible. I go very, very high on certain antioxidants, metal binders, blah, blah, blah. But the biggest thing is your ability to manage stress and to sleep, have quality sleep, okay? Because you have to try to ensure that you're always what's called a parasympathetic state. So you don't want your heart rate variability to absolutely tank, because luckily today we have so much that we can utilize to quantify. So I'll use like a ring that quantifies my sleep quality and then my heart rate variability. And that tells me, okay, I can train 5 days a week. I can possibly train 6 days a week, or I may only train 3 days a week. Regardless of my age, it's the ability to recover. That's what you need to focus on. If you feel really tired, you feel weak, you feel dehydrated, you're cramping up, whatever it may be. And, maybe you have to miss a day, or dependent on the severity of that, maybe you're not going to go to the gym and hit free weights and try to hit personal bests. You're going to stick to machines and cables and go higher reps, more of a circuit fashion, more volume, so you don't, mess with the chance of injury or stressing your central nervous system because you're pushing really heavy weight. So it all comes by instincts to a certain degree. But like I said, we've got quantification these days that will check our heart rate variability, our blood sugar levels, our sleep quality, etc. So, that's one of the measures that I utilize with my clients, regardless of their age.
Because that's what I really like about your approach. It's very analytical. You use the infrared saunas, you use the light blockers, the grounding mats. You really do look after yourself and figure out ways to tackle wherever there could be stress on you and any sort of variation of that. So what is a good kind of low energy or low cost thing that every person should take? Is it buying blue tinted specs? Is it buying a grounding mat? Going for a 10-minute walk after, like Stan Efferdine would say, after to digest better? What are the sort of the best biohacks you found that work?
So it all depends where you live. Like because I travel about 9 months of the year. When I'm in built-up areas, whether it be London, LA, Vegas, Mumbai, I am probably applying more biohacks than when I'm home. Because when I'm home, I live like on the outskirts of the city of Boise in Idaho. I've got a lot of greenery here. I don't have as high EMF levels. I have beautiful weather outside, so I'm exposed to vitamin D. I can take my shoes and socks off. I can ground myself, blah, blah, blah. However, when I'm traveling, a lot of the time I'm staying in hotels where there's a lot of Wi-Fi, there's a lot of EMF. I take my EMF reader with me. So now I'm going to ground myself a lot more. I'm going to wear earthing trainers that are grounding me the entire time. I'll take my mat with me, possibly, but not always. There's going to be a lot more artificial light because I'm generally going to be traveling and working indoors. So then I am wearing the blue light blocking glasses, particularly an hour before bed. That's a non-negotiable anyway. And, the hardest thing I'd say when traveling is ensuring that the food that you're getting is cooked in the right oils. So if you are, let's say if you're eating out at a nice fancy restaurant, ask them, what are they cooking their food in? A lot of the time, it'll be soybean oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, whatever it may be. It's going to be a highly inflammatory rancid oil. It's not going to be like your avocado oil or your olive oil or anything like that. Not always, but a lot of the time. So just ask them to cook it in butter instead. If they have to cook in anything at all, a little bit of butter, but very light, because it's more natural. So, it all comes down to the specifics of where you are. But the one thing is a non-negotiable is going to bed early, wearing red lens, blue light blocking glasses, because the red lens will block out all flicker. If you notice behind me, I actually have red light bulbs in my house. So I kind of look like, I live in a brothel from outside, because they are incandescent bulbs that have zero flicker there and no blue light that is going to penetrate my retina to keep me awake at night. A little bit of blue light is absolutely fine, but not too much. And then I'd say lastly from that is, what can be applied today is, meditation. But if you are in a populated area that has a lot of heavy metal pollutants, from vehicles, then making sure that you do a sauna on a daily basis. That's going to be a big one. Maybe take a binder before you get into the sauna. So that could be like chlorella. You could have a tablespoon of chlorella that helps bind a lot of these heavy metal contaminants, so you can actually detox and sweat it out.
And do you think that's where that you've been so successful, is that you talked on the podcast about how somebody said to you, don't do cardio when you're bodybuilding. So you went to do an Ironman to see, would it really make a difference? Is it that you always push back and challenge the status quo, that you're always looking to find that extra 2% extra return? Is that why do you think you've been so successful?
I don't know if that's the goal of being successful, and I'm not always trying to cause an argument or conflict or anything like that. If I believe that something can be done and enough people are telling me that it can't, then I just have to put myself on the line and actually prove it. I can't say it. A lot of people say a lot of things, but I have to walk that walk in order to prove it. And the thing is, prior to doing an Ironman, I loved cardio anyway. I liked running. I love cycling. I'm always cycling, mountain biking, road biking, whatever. All I had to figure out was the swimming. And of course, getting ready for an Ironman, that does require a lot of cardio. So all I did was lowered my weight training frequency from like 5-6 days a week down to like 4 days a week, and drastically dropped the volume of my training. And then just when it came to a lot of the cardio, it was just intense HIIT work, as opposed to spending hours every day swimming, cycling, running, etc. A lot of it was HIIT work, which was like 45 minutes of cardio on a daily basis. And I'd only go long on one of the days on a weekend for a Saturday and Sunday, mostly like cycling, just to get used to being in a saddle for that long, But, it's relatively easy. But the reasoning behind it is that, number one, I wanted to try something different, put my identity to something else. But I knew that it could be done without losing a lot of muscle. Of course, it wasn't the most efficient way to compete in an Ironman, being about 220 pounds at 5'8". but I just wanted to actually complete it and do it within good time, which I've done several times now. I actually quite enjoy doing the Ironmans, but it's probably not too good on the knees, and that's why a lot of my training is either on a woodway treadmill curve or it's all off road. I try to stay away from the tarmac.
Because you've got an amazing sort of experience in different areas of fitness, and you do a lot of cross training, from like the CrossFit to the bodybuilding to Ironman. You're always doing something new, and you're great friends with Ben Greenfield, who's, for example, he did the Alexander technique with my brother, who teaches that. So it's all these amazing things that you guys are always constantly doing, and question answers are like worth thousands of pounds just by listening to it on your podcast. But do you think we should all be cross training? That we should all have a sort of combat sport, a strength sport, just to kind of challenge our bodies in unique ways to keep being fit for life?
It all has a time and a place. So, for instance, if I'm thinking of a bodybuilder that's competing on the Mr. Olympia stage, let's say 260, 270 pounds, then maybe CrossFit or mixed martial arts isn't going to be their thing. So I know somebody in the UK who's a very, very good bodybuilder. He's a pro bodybuilder. He just decided to take up boxing, and he tore his bicep about 6 months ago. Some people are just not built for that, but maybe if he had just waited until he retired and then started doing that, then great, it's going to be perfect and it's only going to benefit him. But considering he's a pro bodybuilder and he wants to compete, I think it's later this year or maybe it's early next year, again, as a professional bodybuilder, then other sports are probably not going to help him. It's going to hinder him. It's much like a lot of powerlifters. To a certain degree, they have to be very tight in order to be very aligned when they do their heavy lifts. Now, if that same person was to start doing yoga all the time and they elongate their muscles too much, they're not going to have that alignment of stability to pull extremely heavy weights. So, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. And like I said, it's a time and place for each application.
Because I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is as soon as you start a workout, you go balls to the wall, and then you get a bit sore. You skip a workout, and then you just end up going back to your old habits. When you talked on your show about how magnesium is a big thing, a mineral that we all are struggle, to take an adequate amount. Where else do you see guys struggling with in terms of their diet? What are we sort of deficient in that causes us to, maybe the training's there, but the diet's off? What have you spotted that's big problems and holes for most men?
This all comes down to location because different cultures have different deficiencies. Like, for instance, I noticed like in the UK, it's hydration. No one drinks water. A lot of people, if I look at my family, they'll go an entire day without drinking, a glass of water. They'll have their teas and coffees and think then that is hydrating them. When in fact, it isn't, because there is going to be a diuretic effect to the caffeine that they're consuming. So I'd say in the UK in particular, it's hydration. And when you're looking at the body being made up of a minimum of like 60, 70% fluid, then obviously that's going to lead to a decrease in mental performance, physical performance, or ability to recover, possible happiness because they're lethargic and tired all the time, possibly brain dehydration. So now they're getting headaches. So there's a lot that is, there's a lot that people, I guess, miss out on when it comes to just the simple thing of staying hydrated. And that's why I just add a little bit of flavor to my fluid, because I don't drink water unless I've got a little bit of flavor. So I add, some electrolytes, and that makes me want to drink more because it tastes good. And some people, like to have sodas here in the US. So, again, I think that's hydrating them. It's not. But a lot of people just miss the carbonation. So then I just tell them to, move on over to sparkling water if that's the case, and maybe add some flavor in that. But I'd say when it comes to the biggest deficiency, it's that. When I'm working with clients in India, because about 62% of the population are plant-based or vegetarian, then there's a major deficiency in protein, I see, and overconsumption of carbohydrates. because everything is bread related, some sort of bread or some sort of carb or some sort of flour, but very, very low in protein. So, I see when I have clients in India, and I'm generalizing, obviously, when they send me their blood work, I see that testosterone is usually very low, that estrogen is very high. And that all comes down to the ratio of the food that they're consuming. And they have a certain look to them, where you can see that estrogen levels are high, testosterone is kind of low. You can kind of feel it and see it in people's demeanor when you meet them in person. So it's all very cultural, I've noticed.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
And do you find a lot of people will say, "Oh, I didn't realize I had that problem" when they get the test, but their output, their behaviors, their emotional control, the regulation of the central nervous system, etc. Does the body give clues to it being inefficient and misfiring? Could you spot that in a lot of people you train way before they get their tests?
Sometimes, not always. There are a lot of underlying conditions that you'll only see in blood work or some test. It could be a gut microbiome test, could be a stool sample, urine, saliva, whatever. A lot of it is going to be underlying, much like, some people, unfortunately, they don't know that they've got prostate or uterine cancer or anything like that until they've actually got the test and then told that they've only got several months to live. Some of it is going to be a shock. But the one reason why I like to have clients get either their blood work done and a biological age test done is not only does it give me the information to see where their deficiencies lie and how we can optimize them, it gives them the accountability because they see it. And usually they'll listen to a panel that is read out to them as opposed to me by myself. So this is just another form of quantification. That is another form of accountability for them to pursue and not fall off track. When they find out, let's say, their chronological age is 30, but their biological age is 44. They're like, oh my God, what do I need to do? Tell me now. I'll do it right now. Sometimes that's all it takes.
I love your mindset. I love the way you look at things. It's positive. You're like that big brother that we need just to say, stop fucking around. Here's what you need to do to change your life. And I think that's where we all struggle. But as an older person, I want to get back there. How much between sport-specific, physical preparedness, general mobility, etc., do I need to split my training up in? Because I'm assuming I'll have to strengthen tendons, my shoulders, my knees as I'm going back in. Do we need to get into that kind of level, that kind of add in these extra like slices of training in addition to what you would prescribe us just to keep fit so we can lift?
No, I don't think so, because I think in order to strengthen up your tendons and ligaments, you actually do the movements that you want to pursue. So if you want to pursue, let's say it's CrossFit, then you just need to start doing CrossFit and the CrossFit movements, but obviously with a much lighter approach and maybe a lot slower and deliberate range of motion when you're performing that movement. So same when it comes to bodybuilding, tennis or whatever, you need to be sports specific in order for the adaptation of your connective tissue to usually catch up to your muscle tissue. Because obviously the muscle tissue has a good blood supply. It's able to recover very quickly. Tendons and ligaments, not so much. So as you said, it's going to take a little bit longer. So you just start off with that protocol. You still train to failure. I get all my clients to train to failure, regardless of their starting level. but maybe the weight is going to be so much lighter and their rest periods are going to be so much shorter. So you don't recover so quickly and efficiently. So we're able to apply the next set without too much weight that is potentially going to stress the tendons and ligaments. So you kind of want to be weak in the gym, not strong.
Because when you talk a lot in your YouTube videos and stuff about feeling the weight and being in control of it, being, lifting with proper form, etc., but still pushing yourself. How do we build that mind muscle connection so we're not just going through the motions, we're actually feeling the muscle working?
Yeah, so there's going to be a few things there. The first one, people are going to probably think is a little bit controversial. Put your bloody phone down, and I don't mean just in the gym, but throughout the day, because we're training ourselves every time we pick it up to be distracted. Like, I think the most recent studies have shown that we pick up the phone to check over 300 times every day. That's nuts. That's insane. So just think how distracted we are when we go to the gym. Even though we may not have the phone with us, we've trained ourselves to be distracted. So now we're not focusing on the mind-muscle connection. So that would be number one. So like I always read. Whenever I go to bed at night, I try to read as much as I can, but because of time, I'm limited. But I have a religion. Every night for about 45 minutes to 60 minutes, I will read before bed. That is giving me something to help get rid of all of like the deadlines, the thoughts that I've had throughout the day or what I'm going to think about tomorrow. So I escape my reality. So I'm not reading an entrepreneur book or one on nutrition. I'm reading a novel, maybe an Ian Rankin book that I really like that author from Scotland. So I'll read maybe a John Rebus from Ian Rankin. So I'm escaping my reality in the evening. Okay. And that also helps me focus on one thing for a duration of time. So that allows me to be a better writer, be a better editor, and be a better person because I'm giving you my attention because I'm used to it and not being distracted. Secondly, I'd suggest that person who is trying to get that better mind-muscle connection is to get an anatomy chart. Study that anatomy chart so they can see the insertion and the origin of each muscle and the direction those fibers go in when you're contracting and when you're releasing. So then you can visualize that when you're in the gym to get a better mind-muscle connection as well. And if you've got a training partner or a personal trainer that is there in person, get them to tap the muscles that you're supposed to be working. If you're doing a bent over row, get them to tap the traps or the rhomboids or the lats specific to the area that you're working to help you fire those neurons to fire the muscle fiber to that area that you're dominating.
So when you're working out and when you're finished and, like you're reviewing, because I interviewed a guy called Hazard Lee, a fighter pilot, and he said they would listen to the same radio call 30 times to see exactly where they could fix it. They would deep dive into each of the communications to make sure there was no problems and they could find solutions for things that came up. And he said the debrief was the most important part of the mission. What are you looking for during your gym sessions? What data metrics or what feedback are you looking for while you're working out to know that you're doing the right session for you? Are you looking at your Whoop data? Are you looking at how you feel the next morning? How do you feel the gym session? So the nuance, you're working out.
I got it. So, when I'm performing a particular exercise, I want to make sure that I feel it, of course. If I'm doing, for instance, a tricep kickback, and I don't feel it, I'll never do that again. I can't, I probably did tricep kickbacks with a dumbbell maybe about 8 years ago. That was probably the last time. So I'm like, it's useless exercise for me. So I'm not going to do that anymore. Maybe I'll do it with a cable or find an alternative route where I can get a better contraction. But a lot of the signals come 2 or 3 days later. Usually when the delayed onset muscle soreness kicks in, that's when I'm like, I can really feel that. When I did the hack squats a lot deeper than I usually do, now I can really feel it on the quad sweep and a lot more up towards the quad flexors than I did previously. Okay, so I'm going to apply that maybe every third week now moving forward, because I know that's an area that I want to take, change as a weakness into more of a weapon. So a lot of it comes from the feedback of the mind-muscle connection at that time in the gym and the delayed onset muscle soreness a day or 2 or 3 days after the gym. That's what I usually use as my kind of debrief before going in the next time. And make sure that you're always making notes. Try not to make the notes in your phone if possible, because again, it's a distraction. Take an old school pad to the gym and, write back any feedback there. My business partner, Doug Miller, who's won natural world championships several times, he hasn't competed for, I don't know, probably 8-10 years. He retired, but he still writes down absolutely everything, every rep, every set, what he eats, and he used that as his feedback.
So what has these sort of competitions, you've done bodybuilding, Ironman, etc. What has that taught you about our performance capabilities, but also how we improve as men? Do you think we all need challenges like this, that we should all be competing in some sort of sense to kind of step out the comfort zone and push ourselves cognitively as well as physically?
For sure, 100%. Like, comfort zones kill you. There's no doubt about it. That's why people retire at the age of 60, 65, and then, emigrate to Spain and then die 3 years later because they're comfortable. There's no purpose. It's like the universe is saying, there's no use for you. You're not reproducing anymore. You have no purpose. We'll get rid of you. So I think it's very important, especially us as guys, to kind of go through some suffering. I find bonds are made with other people and yourself through suffering. And I always say that scar tissue is stronger than regular tissue. And you want to be harder to kill. You don't want to be soft. You don't want to be easy prey. So that's why, I always start my morning jumping in the ice bath. Do I want to get in the ice bath? No. Hell no. But I know it's going to make me harder to kill. It's going to make me more resilient in other aspects of my life. And sport has done that. Competing in Ironman, competing in motocross, downhill mountain biking, ultramarathon, it is all because not so much, hey, I want to do this. It's like, no, I'm probably going to suck. Let's do this. And that causes this resilience and this armor within you that makes it so much easier for you to transition into other parts of your life that is going to be a challenge. Some of it is the element of surprise, whether it be a loved one that's got sick or now you've gone through an injury, but you've created much more of a resilience behind your psyche that you're able to encounter it, digest it, and relate to it so much easier.
I like that approach, because I think that's where a lot of people go wrong is they start a workout that they've read in Men's Health. It's not personable. They don't know what to eat. So they go mad. They come back and go, I'm a bit sore. I'll give up. And then that's it till the next time they have, I've seen Brad Pitt in Fight Club. I'm definitely going to get his abs. And, it's that stupidity that we do as men. But if we are wanting to change, how would you start getting people to actually do this? How can we, purchase one of your programs, but how do we then go and make it a consistency of working and eating to that level and building that capability, that discipline to work out?
So, you start off with the small goals. Maybe you're going to look at 4 weeks ahead of you and say, okay, in 4 weeks' time, I want to make sure that I'm consistent. I'm going to the gym 3 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever it is, without setting yourself for overwhelm. And the second thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I drink 3 liters of water. And then in the third week, I'm going to ensure that I go to bed an hour earlier. And I'm going to put my phone down at least an hour before that as well. So these are all the small things that you apply. Initially, a lot of people will say, hey, okay, well, I'm going to compete in a bodybuilding show. I'm going to start focusing on that. Okay, let's go. Well, no, maybe things have changed in your life where you have the ability in your brain, but you don't have your ability in life yet. So you just need to make the small changes. When it's a bodybuilding show, it's very, very different. You should be at a certain level before you step on that stage. But you could set yourself up for a 5K run. There's a lot of park runs in the UK. Set yourself up to compete in one of those. Maybe that's your goal. And then you can look at possibly doing, after that, a 10K run or a half marathon or whatever it may be. But start off small, something that's going to be manageable. And then when it comes to your nutrition, you may look at your nutrition and go, wow, I'd say it is probably 60% bad. Okay, then let's just make it 50% this week. And if that was easy enough, then the next week, let's make it 40%, and just bit by bit, you keep chopping bits out.
I love that. So, you're not just having to do this 100% change. You're kind of building into that and building into your lifestyle. What
Well, it
about
all comes
then?
down to the individual. It all comes down to the individual. Some people are just all or nothing characters, which I guess is a little bit more like myself. Because when I started weight training, I said, okay, I'm going to compete in a show next year. And like within a year and a half of me actually picking up a weight, I was competing on stage. But that's not everybody. I didn't have that sense of overwhelm because I started competing in sports at 6 years old. So it was all already ingrained in me. So, but everybody's different, so they have to be approached differently.
So, what then is there such a thing as a recovery protocol that people should follow, or because you were saying about using it as a feedback mechanism, you were saying about the importance of it, and we're working on maybe upping our magnesium and all these sort of things, and hydration, etc. But is it a standard sort of recovery thing that you use to build our longevity that lets us have that chronological age that's maybe like a third of what we actually physically are?
Yeah, well, when it comes to chronological age, that's different to actually helping the body's ability to recover. So when it comes to recovery, from workouts or something like that, then the first thing that is most of importance is your post-workout shake. Now, you may say, well, why a protein shake instead of food? Well, this is the one time in the day that I would prioritize a shake over food. Food, the rest of the time, for sure. But you need something that is very, very fast to digest. So the highest bioavailability on any food is not egg whites, it's not fish, it's going to be whey protein isolate. So immediately following a workout, you've just created muscle damage. That's why you're sore after a workout. You're in the most catabolic environment possible when you're in the gym training. So you need to replenish those muscles with amino acids immediately. That's why I always do it myself and have my clients take their protein shake immediately following and then do 20 minutes of cardio or a cool down straight after that, just to get the blood flow into the localized areas that you've trained carrying the amino acids from that protein powder, okay, to those localized areas. Get rid of the lactic acid, replace it with the protein from the blood flow. That's going to be the first thing. And then after that, dependent on that individual's goals, you're going to be looking at about 1.1 grams of protein per pound of body weight. That is going to allow those muscles to further repair from the damage and regrow and replenish for the following workout that you're likely to have the next day. And obviously carbohydrates come into that as well, because you would have depleted your glycogen stores, not only from the workout, but dependent if you've got a very active job, a physical job, then you'll probably need more carbohydrates again then. So that's going to be your ability to recover, along with sleep, along with managing stress, along with hydration, getting sunlight, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to reversing your chronological age, that ability to recover is similar in the sense of sleep, hydration, going to bed, managing stress, meditation, and things like that. But then there are biohack protocols on top of that. The first thing that I tell all my athletes or clients, because I usually get them eating 5-6 meals a day, is try to, if they can afford it, is to consume grass-fed, humane-raised, wild-caught, organic whenever possible. Because if you're eating 5 or 6 meals a day, you're consuming double the amount of the general population in antibiotics, in pesticides, in herbicides, in omega-6 oils, etc., consuming what is considered as healthy food.
Never even thought about that. Just by increasing your quantity of food, you're also increasing the quantity of all the harmful shite that they manufacture, and that's a really interesting idea.
Exactly.
So,
You think about people consuming supplements. and I'm not speaking of all supplement brands. There's a lot of great brands out there. But if those brands have a lot of artificial colors, flavors, artificial sweeteners, overconsumption of caffeine, bodybuilders or fitness enthusiasts are usually quite obsessive. And if one is good, then usually one and a half or two is even better. So, it's the same thing. Even though supplements are part of the health and fitness industry, they're not all healthy. And we're usually consuming a lot of these supplements. So it's the same with the food. You have to be aware. Maybe you're going to spend a little bit more money going for organic food, and maybe you're going to spend a little bit more money going for high quality supplements. But it all comes down to how bad you want it, and if you really want to heal your future, or if you don't care if you're possibly harming it.
I mean, I was always amazed that when I started to research you, like how much, your content creation, you're working out, you're training with people, you're coaching, you're dealing with clients' calls, you're building programs, ebooks, etc. How do you fit it in? Because I think that's a lot of times people say, oh, I'd love to do that, but I've got the kids. Oh, I'd love to do that, but I don't know if I can get up in the morning, or I don't know about working out late at night. How have you found the fixes to the kind of common how do I make fitness part of a system, a lifestyle, rather than just a one-off and I'll try my best to go in it tomorrow?
Yeah, it usually comes down to making sure you're getting up exceptionally early, but you have to go to bed exceptionally early in order to get everything in. So I like to get up very, very early just so I can get a lot of the essentials done for me, not for anybody else. Get that all done in the morning. That's going to be my workout, my red light, my sauna, my ice bath, my meditation, etc. And then by the time I've got all of that done, now people wake up and now it's time for me to start my work day. I also set boundaries. If somebody says, hey, can we get on a call tomorrow? And I look at my schedule, I'm like, no, it's probably too tight. That person will usually say, just 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. I'm like, no, I've got availability in 2 weeks' time. If you want, we can slot it in there because that's legit. If I am to say yes to everything that comes my way, I would be working until 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. And now I don't have my time. So I'm not going to be a good husband now. I'm not going to be a good person to be around. So I have to prioritize my happiness and my mental health by setting these barriers as well. I'm very, very cautious of not going on the phone. I'll do what I call is, and Joe Rogan actually calls it the same as well. I try to post and then ghost. So I'm not going to go on there and scroll a lot of shit or look at anybody's stories or any of that bullshit. A lot of time is wasted there. I make sure that, when in the evening before I go to bed, I've got my gym clothes ready. I've got my cardio clothes ready for later in the day. And I've also got my daytime clothes ready. I've got all my supplements ready the night before. I've got all my food ready. I've got everything ready so I can be as efficient as possible that following day. If I'm going to drive 20 miles or 10 miles, I'm going to have to go and do 4 or 5 things there to ensure that I'm very, very efficient with my time.
I love that because everybody makes excuses. Rather, you actually just see it and, you find the solutions to what you need. And do you think that's what's helped you? I think is that you've been married 20 years now and, you have
No,
these
no, no.
amazing...
No, I've been married for about 5 years now, about 5 years.
As a 5 year. And then it's, you've got these amazing friendships that I see, everybody, I couldn't find a bad word about you. Everybody's always saying about how good you were for bodybuilding.com and all these sorts of sites. What has that sort of taught you about men in general, like life and what we can achieve from it? Because you just seem to just see it, do it, then find something else. You always seem to be on the pinnacle of the wave of change and doing all these amazing things. But what have you learned about life doing these things, do you think?
Well, you have to stay authentic to who you are. You're not trying to be authentic for anybody else. It's quite easy. And I've fallen into this trap where you wear a mask because you're trying to kind of replicate the people that you're humoring or you're entertaining and stuff like that. I am quite a homebody. Even though I travel so much, I want to be at home. And I'm a bit of a hermit. People will say, hey, is there somebody in your vicinity that could help with this, this, this? I'm like, I know my small circle, and that's pretty much it. Within the fitness community, it is quite vast and wide, but most people live in different cities and stuff like that. But I just try to be the same person that I was growing up in Wales. I'm still, even though I'm here in the US, I'm still very much a family man. I absolutely love my nieces and nephew. Even, I know that I'll never have kids, but that's like me having kids, But the one thing that I have learned, this may sound weird, is that I think looks can be deceiving, because I've noticed this when I go to an event and people meet me, they actually say, oh, you're actually quite nice, which makes me think that they have this assumption that maybe I'm an asshole or a bit of a badass or whatever. Maybe I can be when I'm working out, but I'm a very nice person. I'm a very approachable person. But I think looks can be deceiving, because I notice, like, I walk my pit bull down the street and a lot of people will cross the road to be on the other side of the road. Maybe it's me, maybe it's the dog, I don't know. But that's what I've noticed, is that people can judge a book by its cover, which, can make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable either.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? It's like it's just that sort of, I don't know, passion in the gym that a lot of people go, oh, they're scary. And sometimes what they don't realize is these guys that work out, the biggest guys in the gym, are some of the nicest people in the world. And they're happy to see people training and are more than happy to share advice and things like that. But how do you keep on top of this level of research, education, the changes? Because, you're always changing stuff and learning about yourself and giving out these amazing tips and that. But how do you stay on top of it? And what's the next thing that you're focusing on?
A lot of it is because of the company that I keep. I think that's how I learn. Like I was just speaking only this morning to Tim Gray, who puts on the Health Optimization Summit in the UK, and then my friend Dr. Dom in Germany. I was speaking to Ben Greenfield yesterday. I think just communicating with these people and staying within that wolf pack circle really does help. But of course, I'll purchase books. I don't necessarily apply everything from that book. I'll take a chapter from it that I may think is relevant, and I'll look at studies for about 15, 20 minutes in the morning to see what's new out there in a day. So that's my capacity for learning, I think. The majority I've got is actually, going to a lot of events that I speak at. I speak mostly at biohacking, anti-aging events now, and seeing who's there, communicating with them, looking at the new technology that's out there. And studying things. I wouldn't have had stem cells the amount of times that I've flown to Costa Rica and Mexico hadn't I studied it and known some people that had them before me, to realize how beneficial they were. That would dictate me to go back and back again. So a lot of it is through through education, which then leads to application.
I mean, you do a lot of flying in a lot of hotels, and you go to conferences and all these sort of things. What have you found about making a hotel room, Chris's space, flying, recovery, doing all these kind of long haul flights to like India and all these sort of places? What's it taught you about bringing your tech and your methods away and making the space wherever you are, the car, the hotel, your space, your mission space?
Yeah, so that's a good question, because I have been able to hack travel. I never ever get jet lag. I haven't got jet lag for years. So I found a formula that actually works now, but maybe it's not going to work for everybody, but it mostly does. The first thing I think that's of importance is that you regulate yourself to the time zone that you're going in. So if it's nighttime in the UK and I'm traveling to the UK, I'm wearing my red lens, blue light blocking glasses now to block out all artificial light, to tell my brain it is nighttime, to help me get into that new circadian setting. I'll also fast during that time, because I wouldn't usually eat during my sleeping hours. So now I'm going to fast during that time of the time zone that I'm going into if it's night. I'll also earth or ground myself immediately upon landing. I'm not always going to find a grassy patch. So I wear what's called Bahi trainers. They're actually based out of the UK, and they're earthing, grounding trainers. So I'm getting grounded and absorbing the negative eons from that new time zone that I've just traveled in. On top of that, I'm making sure that I'm hydrating with electrolytes. I'll take various types of very strong antioxidants. So that's going to be glutathione, carbon C from My Vital C, basically, and hydrogen-rich water. Lastly would be methylene blue. I'm not going to eat the crap that is on the plane. A lot of it has preservatives, a lot of cheap table salt, sodium in it. So I'll carry my own meals on the plane. Maybe I'll have like a collagen protein bar or protein shake. If there's delays and stuff like that, I'll have as a backup. When it comes to the hotel room, I usually unplug everything that's in there. I don't want anything plugged in because that usually leads to a lot of dirty electricity. I'll go through the room with my EMF reader. Maybe I need to move the bed because where the head is, that's where the highest amount of EMF is or whatever. I'll always have a Faraday blanket as well. So a blanket that is made out of Faraday blocks all EMF and Wi-Fi and satellite. Like if you wrap your phone in Faraday, it won't work. So I'll always do that as well. And I always travel with a lamp that is red, a red lamp that is zero flicker, because obviously the light bulbs and the lamps that they have in hotel rooms have artificial blue light that has a lot of flicker that raises your cortisol, which doesn't allow melatonin to release because you've just got too much cortisol and not enough serotonin, oxytocin, and melatonin being released. So there's probably a lot more. That's probably the basics. I usually have 2 suitcases, and one is full of supplements and biohacks, and the other one's my clothes. But I'm not as bad as Ben. When I've traveled with Ben Greenfield, his backpack is literally filled with gadgets, and that's his carry-on. So that will always get detected. They always tell him to take out all these gadgets. They had to have him stripped down when I traveled with him last time, down to his boxer shorts, because he was wearing Faraday clothing, which always sets off the alarm as well, because it looks like he's wearing metal everywhere.
I love that. It's these things you never think about just to keep yourself alive and doing well. But I knew you were going to be good. I never thought it'd be this level good. It's so much to take from this. I'd love to do a round 2 later when I've started, working out again, and I'm sure there'll be deeper questions we can go to. But what would you want people to take from this? And how can we keep in touch with this amazing journey, your podcast, etc.?
Okay. Well, first of all, this is going to sound very, very woo-woo and hippy-dippy, is start off with a form of meditation. Now, I'm going to suggest guided meditation because it's done for you. It's a little bit easier as opposed to you sitting in a room in silence and trying to get rid of your thoughts. It's difficult. I did a 10-day Vipassana, which was a silent retreat. It was meditating from 6 a.m. till 8 o'clock in the evening every day. No eye contact, couldn't talk, nothing to read, no phones, obviously, nothing at all whatsoever. And it took several days to really go into that parasympathetic state where you're looking at everything in equanimity. So it's going to be very difficult from you to go from a world of noise, deadline, distraction, all of our sensory overloads that are out there to go to nothing. So that's why I suggest guided meditation. Download some meditations, but then put your phone on airplane mode so you're not distracted. Now, that's probably going to be the most difficult thing that you can do. Most people can work out. If I tell people, how long have you been working out? Yeah, great. Or do you work out? Yeah, for sure. Now, when I ask people, have you meditated? Everybody puts their hands up. When I say, do you meditate? No one puts their hands up. It's friggin' difficult in this day and age because we're used to distraction. So I would say focus on meditation first, because then you can focus more on your diet, on your sleep, on your discipline, because you've created discipline in something, again, that has a transcendence effect in other areas of your life.
I love that. And how can we follow on now, with your podcast, your coaching, your social media? Where do you want people to go? Because you're going to get a lot of fans.
Thank you. It's probably best to go to my Instagram, which is Kris Gethin, Gethin, Kris Gethin. And you can see in my link tree whatever else I've got there. Yeah. If you've got any questions, they can shoot me a direct message.
Well, that's it for another week. And thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.